Hi there, this is a video to highlight, again, some of the language that is being used within, this whole question and in many other walks of life. And for me, language is one of these barriers that people need to come to an understanding on. Now, one of the main issues that I've seen with this whole thing, because, remember, this question is about the objective truth. It's about the objective reality that we're living in. And one of the words that I hear continually is debate. Now, we have to come to an agreement that there is an objective world, and we have to start from there. We have to agree that our senses can be trusted, and that these are the tools we use in order to explore, measure, test, experience the objective world that we all share. So, again, the word debate, for me, a debate tells me that people want to argue about subjective wishes, ideas, and for me, the truth, the objective truth, there only is one truth. You do not debate it. All claims about reality must be measurable, testable, observable, repeatable, and if it is reality, it should be scalable. Okay, so again, Gav has put this wee voiceover thing together, and I appreciate Gav's time. Also, everybody else who contributes to this. There's people here who are making an effort and working hard in order to put this stuff out there to try and educate people properly, to give them the tools that are required in order to combat this lie. Now, for me, it was very clear at the beginning that it is about the objective truth. It's not about personalities. So the people who continue to focus on idiotic things like personality, attacking men, attacking straw men, and trying to turn the whole thing into some sort of debate like there's two opposing sides. The objective reality that only has one truth, it is what it is. It's not about a debate, we can only discuss it. So I'm going to let the video play, and if there's points here that I can highlight and maybe add to, then I'm going to do so.
So this video is about some of the principles that apply on the platform for people beyond the imaginary curve. The objective truth is not up for debate. This is not a debate. This is about a discussion. Natural science has no duality. It is what it is. And there is no double truth. There's only a single truth, which is what we should all be searching for. So people should like to better understand, how we think on this platform and how we want to discuss with other people. Then they should look no further than the works of Dr. Thomas Reid. So we have here a few quotes from Thomas Reid that will hopefully explain better how the people on this platform would like to engage with others when we're talking about natural science.
There's the point. This is about a discussion. Now these, certain people, certain characters, be it that, it's deliberate or it's just the level that people are at, people need to come to the understanding that we can only have a discussion about the objective truth, right? And what the actual proofs are, the measurable proofs. It's, again, if you're seeing people who are attacking and defending, then there's an issue there. People have lost what's important and what the actual truth of the situation is, and what language we should be using in order to find that out.
So, quote, "For before men can reason together, they must agree in first principles, and it is impossible to reason with a man who has no principles in common with you. Our first principle is that qualities must necessarily be in something that is figured, coloured, hard or soft, that moves or resists. It is not to these qualities, but to that which is the subject of them, that we give the name body. If any man should think fit to deny that these things are qualities, or that they require any subject, I leave him to enjoy his opinion as a man who denies first principles and is not fit to be reasoned with." So hopefully it can be seen by this quote that any inquiry into natural science must by necessity have a body attached to it, some real natural substance with which to inquire about, and that is the subject of the inquiry. The qualities of the body or the subject can be things like figured, coloured, hard or soft, but qualities require a body. And if somebody thinks that it's possible to discuss qualities of things without a body attached to it, without a subject, then these are the people who there is no point in talking to them about it. They deny nature, they deny reality, and therefore there's no real point in having a reasonable discussion with them.
Yeah, so just like, when you try to have a discussion with religious people or, any of these types of things, they want to discuss abstract concepts and things that are not tangible to our senses and our experience at this moment in time. And the same is true for, like the globe. Where they come out with excuses, things like, oh, I can't show you a body of water conforming to the sphere because I need a planet in outer space. And, these are just no tangible things. These are ideas. This is where it moves away from, first principles, objective reality, into religious ideology. And for me, deception. Because if it's not measurable, testable, and repeatable by everybody, then there's an issue there for me. There's a lie. Okay.
A second quote, just to show more where this is all coming from. It is certain no man can conceive or believe smelling to exist of itself without a mind, or something that has the power of smelling, of which it is called a sensation, an operation, or a feeling. Yet if any man should demand a proof that such sensation cannot be without a mind or a sentient being, I confess that I can give none, and that to pretend to prove it seems to me almost as absurd as to deny it. So here again, there are certain things that we have to take as being true. They're in the nature of the thing, and they are indeed difficult to prove. But it's absurd to pretend to prove it, and it's certainly even more absurd to deny it. If there are certain principles, as I think there are, which the constitution of our nature leads us to believe, and which we are under a necessity to take for granted in the common concerns of life, without being able to give a reason for them, these are what we call the principles of common sense, and what is manifestly contrary to them is what we call absurd.
So, this leads into, reality is an abstract mathematical equation and we can't trust our senses because they're flawed. When really the truth of the situation is we take these common sense, our senses for granted. We have used them thus far in our lives for every single thing. These are the things that we base everything on. All our experiences, all the progress that humans make is because of our senses, and to deny them, in favour of absurdities is where the problem is. So as Gav points out here, common sense, water seeks its own level. It will always do so. The surface will always be at a flat parallel plane, obviously with motion within it. Now, to deny that in favour of vast, huge, rotund, curvy oceans stuck to a globular rock is totally contrary to everyday common sense, everyday observation, everyday testing. So, we need to understand that we do trust our senses and we do depend on them. Without them, how would you even get yourself dressed in the morning? And again, to reiterate the point, you can see artists who can carve intricate models on the end of a pencil tip, using fine tools and fine eyesight. So, our senses are there for a reason. I trust my senses, they have got me thus far. Although, many of us have lived in ignorance and denied our senses because obviously the programming that's been going on. But now we need to understand that, it's what every single one of us, can test, observe in our everyday existence, things that are there, and to deny them, is a real problem.
So all reasoning must be from first principles, and for first principles no other reason can be given but this, that by the constitution of our nature we are under a necessity of assenting to them. So I think here it's also clear that if you don't believe in nature, if you don't believe that there's a real external world out there, then you're going to have a problem conducting yourself in the common concerns of life, in your daily life. It's not going to be possible if you think you're made of glass, or you deny that there's bricks and stones out there when you kick them. Then those go completely against common sense. It would be absurd to think that these things don't exist.
Yeah. And that's one of the things the whole New Age movement done, adopted a materialistic philosophy, a stance that, the world's not really as we perceive it to be. It's all about your belief and your perceptions and blah, blah, blah. And that is totally wrong. There is an objective reality there. And a very simple refutation of people who claim these things is you take, a newborn mind, whether it be an animal, a child, whatever, that has no programmed condition, it doesn't have any preconceived ideas of the world that it is in, and you throw it under a bus or drop a brick on it or any of these things, there's going to be a consequence to that, because the objective world has a definite format, it has definite physical laws that we can depend on, that we can experience every single day. So the objective world really is there. And these ideas that it's a mathematical abstraction and it's not really what it appears to be are totally nonsense. As I say, a simple refutation is take a new mind, and does its perceptions, a lack of awareness, affect how they interacts with the objective world? No, it doesn't. Babies die in accidents, adults die in accidents, animals die in accidents when they have no preconceived notion or idea about any of these things. So,
and even if we can't completely prove them, we can go from all the evidence of all mankind, and we know that we under a necessity to assent to them. I give implicit belief to the information of nature by my senses for a considerable part of my life before I had learned so much logic as to be able to start a doubt concerning them. And now when I reflect upon what is past, I do not find that I have been imposed upon by this belief. I find that without it, I must have perished by 1,000 accidents. I find that without it, I should have been no wiser now than when I was born. I should not even have been able to acquire that logic which suggests these sceptical doubts with regard to my senses.
Yeah. So as Gav points out there, without your senses, you would be accident prone. You probably wouldn't even make it past the first few years of your life. But the fact of the matter is you have these senses that are, tuned in order to experience this reality. And as I say, you learn fire burns, ice is cold, water is wet, you drown in water. We have these understandings about the natural world that we live in. Okay, so the objective world is true, the subjective experience is true, and you depend upon your senses in order to navigate and find your way through this objective reality that we find ourselves in.
Therefore, I consider this instinctive belief as one of the best gifts of nature. I thank the author of my being who bestowed it upon me before the eyes of my reason were opened, and still bestows it upon me to be my guide where reason leaves me in the dark. Again, we have all these contrahents or opponents thinking that they can deny nature, they can deny reality. These are the same people that go out and walk on the street and do the same things as we do to make sure that they can get by in their daily life. So, these skeptics are generally speaking hypocrites. And I think it's fairly obvious that, when we cannot reason in things, whatever, due to our own abilities or our expertise or our background, then our senses really are the things that guide us when our reason leaves us in the dark. There is a much greater similitude than is commonly imagined between the testimony of nature given by our senses and the testimony of men given by language.
So again, Gav highlighting here, a language, mathematical language. Earth's a sphere, bodies of water conform to the exterior of a sphere. Then they can use their mathematical language to create and fabricate that story. But if you're adopting that and you're taking belief in that, you're denying your own senses, because for a fact we know that water does not behave like that. So the reason that people are denying their own senses and their common sense is because of the imagery that institutions like NASA produce. If they can push a lie big enough, then they can make people doubt their own common sense just by the power of the image. As I say, it doesn't matter to me how many images the institutions pump out there. I will always depend on my senses and what objective reality shows me. Now, objective reality shows me that all water must be contained and is level, especially when it's in a collected body. So I know that that's true to reality. It's a fact of my reality and everybody else's reality. So no matter the amount of imagery that's put towards me, if it doesn't concur with what I'm experiencing in my objective world, then I'm not going to accept it. So they can pump out as much artistic images as they like. They're never going to get me to deny what's observable in our reality.
The credit we give to both is at first the effect of instinct only. When we grow up and begin to reason about them, the credit given to human testimony is restrained and weakened by the experience we have of deceit.
So that was part of my journey, was understanding that mathematics was a language, and that it was classed as a formal science because it does not depend upon empirical observations. So from there you can understand that it's a language created by men, that can be used just the same as English. I can use English to tell you a factual information, or I can use English to fabricate a story that's not based in reality. That's the mathematics has that ability to do that. As a language, that's why it's a formal science. The mathematics is useful if it matches with the observable world. Okay, and it's as simple as that. The objective world was there before the language was designed to describe it. Now, the mathematics is great, when it works and it actually does describe reality the way that it is. So, a mathematician can send another mathematician, the mathematics for an internal combustion engine. And because that's based on practical experience, practical examples, these measurements will be correct, unless, of course, the mathematician's made a mistake within his works. But that other person can then take that and create, from that, the internal combustion engine, because again, it's based on objective truth, right? But there's a difference, especially when you're looking at the heliocentric model, when you take their mathematical equations and their language, and then you try and apply it to the natural world and look for practical examples, and that's where it's found wanting.
But the credit given to the testimony of our senses is established and confirmed by the uniformity and constancy of the laws of nature. So again, we see here our general propensity for veracity and credulity. We want to speak the truth. We want other people to speak the truth and believe them. But that's something that during our life is definitely weakened. Everybody's had a bad experience. But when it comes to our testimony of our senses, these are never changing. They are uniform, they're constant, and they're part of nature.
Yeah, that's a great point.
They have to be the things that we use as a first principle, and founded upon when we have a discussion or we inquire into natural science. Perception, whether original or acquired, implies no exercise of reason and is common to men, children, idiots, and brutes. The more obvious conclusions drawn from our perceptions by reason make what we call common understanding, by which men conduct themselves in the common affairs of life and by which they are distinguished from idiots.
So a wee point I just want to add to this, perception, whether original or acquired, implies no exercise of reason and is common to men, children, idiots and brutes. So you know, there's varying aspects of this. You know, everybody can perceive me as a human, as a body, as a solid figure. That is an objective truth that I actually exist and I am there within everybody else's, you know, reality. So there's an objective truth aspect here to that. But there's also a subjective aspect where people's perceptions of me may be different based on who they are, but there is an objective truth that I am actually a body, I am actually here, I'm a sentient being, and I am me. People's individuals' perceptions of who I might be, you know, how they perceive me can vary and differ, but you know, the truth of the matter is that I actually exist. It's just the same as me saying, you know, every one of us can go out and, you know, view Ben Lomond. We all know that there's an objective reality there, that Ben Lomond actually exists, that it is tangible and there for all to see, touch, taste, smell, you know. But people's subjective perceptions, beliefs, whatever, can start going, well, how did the mountain come to be? And, but, you know, people start wandering into their own subjective experiences and questions. But you bring it back to the, you know, this whole question. It's not about a debate about how it all got here. Right now, we're in a position where we're trying to establish what the objective world is, and that is purely it. No, the subjective beliefs and wishes of everybody else. Just, you know, is Ben Lomond actually there? Cool, we all agree that Ben Lomond is actually there. That's fine. We've established that there's an objective truth there.
The more remote conclusions, which are drawn from our perceptions by reason, make what we commonly call science in the various parts of nature, whether in agriculture, medicine, mechanics, or in any part of natural philosophy. So again, we see here, you know, perceptions and sensations are natural language that we get from living, and we need these in the common affairs of life. And that distinguishes us from fools, from idiots, from asylum seekers. And it's also clear, I think, that reason has to build upon the senses. Without senses, reason would be nowhere, and we couldn't start in science or in any part of investigating nature. That our thoughts and sensations must have a subject, which we call ourself, is not therefore an opinion got by reasoning, but a natural principle. That our sensations of touch indicate something external, extended, figured, hard or soft, is not a deduction of reason, but a natural principle. The belief of it and the very conception of it are equally parts of our constitution. It is absurd to think that nature allows our senses to deceive us and gives us other faculties to detect the cheat. If we are deceived in it, we are deceived by him that made us, and there is no remedy.
So if people don't agree that we can trust our senses and we can experience the objective world, then, you know, the whole thing's up in the air. Nobody then has the right to claim anything about reality. They don't have the right to say that it's a globe. Nobody has a right to say it's anything. If we don't establish, first of all, that we're basing things on the objective truth and the trust of our own senses.
Here it's important to understand that our thoughts and sensations, you know, have a subject. We are implicit in the investigation or the inquiry into nature. We are a part of it. That we have clear and distinct conceptions of extension, figure, motion, and other attributes of body, which are neither sensations nor like any sensation, is a fact of which we may be as certain as that we have sensations. And that all mankind have a fixed belief of an external material world, a belief which is neither got by reasoning nor education, and a belief which we cannot shake off, even when we seem to have strong arguments against it and no shadow of argument for it. It is likewise a fact for which we have all the evidence that the nature of the thing admits. These facts are phenomena of human nature, from which we may justly argue against any hypothesis, however generally received.
Hypotheses, you know, I'll go back to it again. Oh, oceans are conforming to the exterior of a fucking sphere. You know, and I apologise for the language, but you know, it's so it grates on you eventually when you have this consistent reality denial, and people trying to use man-made instruments to measure and test, when for me, that natural part of the objective world, water is a perfect leveling tool. So, I can totally destroy a hypothesis of, oh, the Earth's round with the oceans curved to it, because I can't observe one practical example of that in my existence anywhere. Neither can anybody. Okay? So, we abandon common sense and objective reality for, again, images.
But to argue from a hypothesis against facts is contrary to the rules of true philosophy.
They argue from, the Earth is a sphere and I need a planet to show you how oceans are curving round it. These people are, arguing for their hypotheses, against, common sense observable reality, which is a real issue. And there clearly you can see the deceptive nature of these people, whether it is deliberate deception or whether they're just so insecure that they have to deny actual reality because they feel secure with the delusion that they have adopted. Who knows? There's so many varying aspects of people at different levels.
Again, here, our senses show us that there's an external world. We believe in an external world. We didn't get that by reasoning or by educating. It's part of our natural constitution.
Yeah, and that just highlights again what I was saying. You take a new mind, and it will be subject to the objective world. The laws of nature, and what governs this existence. Even a mind that is blank will still be subject to those laws, as I say. Children in car accidents, newborn babies in accidents. You drop a newborn baby, it's going to hit the floor, it's going to be injured and hurt, because there is an objective truth to this reality.
And all these facts of all mankind that have this belief of an external material world means that, we are correct to argue against any hypothesis or theory which contradicts these things. Doesn't matter how many people believe it. And it's nonsense to argue from a hypothesis against those facts that there is an external material world. And it's what we see it is and not what we're told it is. Let scholastic sophisters entangle themselves in their own cobwebs. I am resolved to take my own existence and the existence of other things upon trust, and to believe that snow is cold and honey sweet, whatever they may say to the contrary. He must either be a fool or want to make a fool out of me that would reason me out of my reason and senses.
Which is exactly what the heliocentric globe model tries to do. For me, it is making a fool of you, and trying to get you to doubt your own senses and your own faculties. It's an absurdity that is, for whatever reasons it has been imposed on humanity, whether that be, a deliberate thing or a sequence of events that just led them down that path where, they had made a mistake, and rather than open up to the mistake, they perpetuated it for whatever reason, greed, money. We know the reasons why humans behave the way they do. Whether it's a set out plan that was meant to happen that way or no is up for, question amongst people. The fact of the matter is, what's being pushed to us is totally against observable, testable, measurable reality. And for me, it's there to make a fool of you. And the people who continue to push it are making a fool of themselves at the same time. They're insulting me by trying to get me to doubt what I experience and what many other people now are coming forward to say is, their experience of the true natural world. We can't give up the objective reality and the trust in our senses and means of observations and testing, for images, because really when it comes down to it, that's all that they have. That is where the huge doubt is coming with people. What we're talking about is real, the core of real science as far as I'm concerned, and people are caught up and so entrenched in imagery that that's where the battle for them lies. They can't detach themselves from these images and have a critical thought about the objective world they're living in, and to see if it matches. And that's, some of the street stuff is trying to point that to people. Look at the simplistic things about reality, like the water is one of, my favourite, because, as I say, for me it is the most solid proof that anybody has. It's the most accurate measuring tool that anybody has. The very fact that it levels off tells me that it's levelling to the plane of existence that we are upon, right? So, again, the globe wants you to deny every aspect of this. The globe for me exists purely as a mathematical creation. It only exists in textbooks and on TV images. It doesn't exist in the real world, the reality that I'm experiencing.
I think that's a fitting end to this little video, and I hope this gives everybody a clearer picture of inquiries into natural science and what the agreement has to be between people before they have a reasonable discussion. Thanks for listening.
So just to sum that up, this is the message I've always tried to push. It's the understanding that I'm at, and it's an understanding that we all have to come to an agreement on. This is not about me as a person, and anybody focusing on me as a person, just ignore them, right? We have to establish that there is an objective world. The question is, what is the dimensions, the shape of this objective reality that we are experiencing? Now that comes down to our senses and what every single one of us is testing and observing, right? So every single person that I'm experiencing experiences a flat level horizon. They understand that water finds and seeks its own level. The surface will always be parallel. From one side to the other, it has to be at the same elevation, or the water is going to flow. So we have to, I've always tried to say that to people. There is an objective world. That objective world is the truth. There is no debating it. People can debate the religious ideologies about how it came to be, who created it, all these things. For me, that's not the issue right now. The issue is understanding this language and the position that we are actually in and what it is we're all trying to figure out. Now, as it was pointed out at the beginning, and I've always said it to people, it is not a debate, right? We can only discuss it. And all claims that are being made about the objective world that we all share must match the criteria of observable, measurable, testable, and repeatable. Right? If it's wandering from that, if we don't have practical examples for any claims that are being made, it's got to be disregarded. Right? It's as simple as that. Now, if people had taken this on board and understood this back then, this whole thing would have moved and progressed a lot quicker. Right? So, people again, will be live tonight, Saturday the 18th of February at 7:30 p.m. Anybody who wants to refute or deny what this information that we are putting out there, then please come forward and express why you think so. But at the end of the day, for me, this is the only way. We have to agree there's an objective world. We have to agree on a method of exploring that removes subjective perception, wishes, desires, beliefs. And keep it simple like that. That's just the way it has to be. So hopefully, this and the rest of the tools that we're going to put out there makes sense to people. We're trying to break it down as simply as we can in order to make it, understandable for the layman. And remember, I'm a layman as well, but my journey helped me to understand this language, logic, reasoning, natural science, understood through my own investigations, my own research. Science has subdivisions: natural, formal, social science. Mathematics lies under formal science because it is a language that can be manipulated. It does not depend on empirical observation. So this question is about the natural world. It has to fall into the criteria of natural science: measurable, testable, observable, repeatable. It should be scalable as well. So, excuse me. I hope people find this useful, and hopefully we'll see more of you on Saturday night. Peace.